Yeah.
Karma and different types of kand, karam kand and the other kand.
Yoga also, yoga. Jnana yoga, karma yoga.
Karma yoga.
Very good. Different kinds of yogas.
Different kinds of yoga, right? Not karma.
Some kind of yoga, and then out of that, some of them are karma yoga, and within karma yoga, there is nishkam karma,
Karma yoga.
right? So let me just share some slides. Yeah, and then there's karma kanda, which is not really yoga, because it's not directly connecting with Krishna. I'll have to share this one. So there. I'm going to share screen. So this is terminology. So yoga means what? Hold on.
Connected to the supreme consciousness. Yeah.
Yes.
Oops.
So the term yoga means to connect. Yoga. In fact, the English word yoke, Y-O-K, yoke is the piece of wood that connects the two bulls together when they're plowing the field. You know, there's a yoke, it's yoking together. Yes. Yeah, we're recording this. I'm just going to make sure.
Prabhuji, what did you say? The English word? Yoke.
Yoke, Y-O-K-E.
Oh, why? Okay, okay. Yoke. Okay. Oh, okay. That's the connection.
Yeah, yoke. So yoke and yoke.
Like the yoke. Okay, so
There's a background noise.
Yeah, there's someone having something playing in the background. Okay, that's good. Thank you. All right.
it's a
So yoga means to connect. And connect means to connect. So is Krishna. Okay, that's the process. Jnana means knowledge, and jnana yoga means the cultivation of knowledge, which helps us understand what is spirit, what is soul. Now, generally, this process of jnana yoga implies that we don't really do any active things. We just sit, you study, and you meditate. Which is why Arjun gets confused.
why
Then karma is just material activities, fruitive activities. Those who just do activities just for the sake of enjoying are called karmis.
Okay, drink water.
Okay, and karma kanda is the section in the Vedas that are meant for gradual elevation to spiritual consciousness, but they're very materialistic in their orientation, and they promise materialistic goals. Which is why it can get very confusing when devotees come to Krishna consciousness. But say Vedas are so full of this thing, you do this puja, you'll get a nice husband. You do this puja, you'll be successful. Do well in your studies. You worship this God. You will do well in your business. Why is so much emphasis on this when on the other hand, you're saying we should be away from materialism? So it can be confusing. So that's why Krishna, right off the bat, he tells Arjuna, don't get confused by this. The Vedas are full of it, all these material goals, but you rise above these three modes of nature. Okay. Karma yoga is the process of using your work to connect with Krishna directly. And out of that, when you start out, typically you're still attached to some of the fruits, but you start giving some of the fruits to Krishna. That is sakama. You like the fruits of that work. That's sakama karma. And then nishkama means you're working 100% for Krishna. All the fruits you offer to Krishna. All right. Okay. So Arjuna had given reasons why he didn't want to fight. Correct? Now, this is a summary of why Krishna explains to Arjuna, these are the reasons you should fight. One is that, look, souls cannot be killed anyway. So that is the Jnana Yoga section, the Jnana section. Look, your spirit, soul, very clear. So if you look at it from the angle of Jnana, they cannot die. You cannot cause someone to be killed. So from that reason, you should do it because it's your duty. Right? Now, second point, you have a responsibility as a warrior. That is your duty. That is your focus. That is your contribution. That's how you give back to society. To protect the innocent, to uphold justice. That is what you should be doing. If you're a policeman and then when the thief is coming in or murderer is killing somebody and you run away at that point, at the end time, it's not good. So that's what you're doing. It's your job. Then from the karma kandi, or from the karmic angle, it tells him, look, it's a win-win for you, Arjuna. If you win, you'll get to rule a kingdom. And if you get killed, you go to paradise. So it's win-win. No matter what happens at the outcome of this war, it'll be good only for you from the material angle also. And even if you don't care for these above motives, if you don't care about Jnana Yoga, you don't care about even upholding your own duty, you don't care about going to paradise, you don't care about ruling the kingdom, you said very clearly you don't care about all these things. Even if you don't care about these motivations, still you should fight selflessly out of duty, because this selfless activity will actually free you from karma, from karmic reaction. At least that you should care about, because karmic entanglement is just a vicious cycle that keeps taking you down and down. And it adds up to your sin. Remember, Arjuna, you said that it's sinful?
Yeah.
But look, I'm telling you, if you don't fight, it's a sin. It's the opposite. So this last point, Krishna tells you combine the components of jnana and karma. And this is called Nishkam Karma or Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga is what we're going to talk about quite a bit. Buddhi means what? Anybody know what Buddhi means?
Intellect.
Knowledge.
Intellect.
Yeah, intellect, knowledge, you're right. So Buddhi means intelligence. Intelligence. So we will learn the difference between some of this terminology. Buddhi means specifically intelligence. Jnana means specifically knowledge. And mana means mind. Mind, intelligence, and there's knowledge, jnana. Okay, so they're very similar, very interrelated, tightly related. So in this case, Jnana Yoga means you understand what is spirit. Karma Yoga means you understand your duty and you work for the Supreme. You combine that with the full knowledge, that is called Nishkam Karma, because you're doing it selflessly, or Buddhi Yoga. This is where you're using intelligence to connect to the Supreme. Is that clear? And we'll go with this theme over and over again from several. In fact, most of the Gita would be covering these topics, which is why I'm repeating them over. So then when Krishna brings them up again, it's very clear what he's meaning when he says them. Okay, so now Arjuna asks, look, you're saying I should elevate my mind, become selfless and so on. But this requires a lot of intelligence. Where can I get such an intelligence? It's an interesting question. So now Krishna is going to define what is this intelligence. He says people usually describe intelligence as something scholastic. You know, like if you're intelligent, you can get into Harvard or MIT. You know, you study very hard, that's intelligence. But I will explain it in a practical way. Practical means something you do, not something you study necessarily. See? Practical intelligence. Practical intelligence is what he's calling Buddhi Yoga, where you do something driven by intelligence, you do something smart. You do something smartly directed to spiritual elevation. That is called practical intelligence. Okay, or Buddhi Yoga. Practical intelligence will elevate and liberate you from the bonds of action and reaction. Right? Because, see, action we have to do. Even to survive, even to sustain the body, you have to act. So, why not act in such a way that every single moment or every single component, every single action of your line of life is aligned with spiritual elevation? That is called practical intelligence or Buddhi Yoga. And then you'll be freed from bonds of karma, action, reaction. So now I'm just going to recap the key points. So Krishna describes jnana as difference between body and soul. And to practice this requires renunciation of activity and only meditation. However, all along, he has been telling Arjuna, continue to work as a warrior. He's been using the term jnana, but he's saying you do work, you fight. But do it with the understanding of jnana. The conclusion of jnana is that you are not the body, you are the soul. So now you act, but having the understanding of this jnana. This highly elevated practice is called Buddhi Yoga, yoga of intelligence, or practical intelligence. So in chapter 10, who will explain this particular intelligence much more deeply. Okay? The topmost stage of Buddhi Yoga is when Krishna himself bestows full Buddhi and one becomes completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So the topmost stage of Buddhi Yoga is what? When Krishna himself fills you with the Buddhi. So then how is he going to fill you with Buddhi? That we'll learn in chapter 10 in the understanding of Buddhi Yoga, where Krishna says that someone who is worshipping me and with love and affection, I give them the Buddhi Yoga, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. That Buddhi Yoga by which you can come to me. It is the highest stage of Buddhi Yoga, and that will be covered in chapter 10. Okay. All right. Any questions at this point before we go on?
One question, Prabhuji. How you can describe the Buddhi Yoga in today's world?
Yeah, that's a good question. So how Krishna, that's the question that Arjuna is going to ask next, a set of questions he asks. But it's a good question because it leads us to the next discussion, that in the modern context, because that always comes back to the modern context, right? Every time we see Arjuna, it's such an ancient format, everything is different. We can't relate so much to Arjuna. But if we understand our situation similarly, Arjuna is also a career man, we are also a career person. He has to do something difficult, we sometimes have to do difficult things and so on. So what to do, how to do it, and how to do it in such a way that it qualifies as Buddhi Yoga. So then, go ahead. So I just wanted to continue that point here. So Arjuna actually asked this question.
One second. So before you go on to the other point,
Yeah.
I think what we discussed here, previous slide, if you can move to previous slide. So there's this recap of key points. See, then can you, if you can go one more behind where Krishna gives reasons for Arjuna to fight. Yeah. In this, the second one, right? That Arjuna has a responsibility as a warrior to protect good causes. So can this be categorized in the category of dharma, as is swadharma, as is dharma of a kshatriya?
Yes, that is definitely his kshatriya dharma for sure.
So it's jnana, dharma, karma, and then jnana and karma mixed.
Yeah, except the reason why we don't use the term dharma here is because there's no concept of what is dharma yoga. You see, we're using terms for yoga that can be classified as yoga concepts. So jnana is yoga and karma is yoga. When you perform your duty, depending on what is your goal in doing that duty, it can be classified as yoga or not yoga.
Okay. So which is towards Krishna is yoga, joining, which is not directed towards Krishna is not yoga.
Exactly.
I think when we speak, whether it's question or repetition of the concept, that makes it more concrete in our mind. Do you all think that we can talk about this topic, not this one, but the recap slide, we can talk about it a little bit in a sentence or two?
Yeah. So does anybody want to see if they can summarize? It'll be good if...
the wordings are there on the...
Yeah.
Actually, I have one question. I'm kind of a little confused. What's the difference between Buddhi Yoga and Bhakti Yoga?
It's a good question. Actually, we'll find that there's no difference. Prabhupada will describe in the purport Buddhi Yoga is Bhakti Yoga.
Yes, critical thinking. This is very
It's just that we haven't brought that title yet, the concept, the name yet, but it is Bhakti Yoga.
It starts from chapter 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
Buddhi Yoga is synonymous with Bhakti Yoga, actually. The same thing.
Okay.
Yep.
Why? What made you ask that question? I mean, they're just two different words, right? No.
Because I was looking at the definition, and it says when you do your work, but you do it with the Lord in mind, you know, when you completely absorb in Krishna consciousness. So you're doing your duty, which is but it's still a yoga because you're connected to Krishna, but it's with the intellect that you're doing it for Krishna. And
Is it then, is the, okay, like Nishkama?
yeah, I'm getting all confused. I'm
Oh my
sorry.
God, are they all the same?
I'm so
Okay,
sorry.
now, the Buddhi Yoga and the Nishkama Karma Yoga and the Bhakti Yoga.
Yes. Actually, Nishkama Karma Yoga at its highest level actually is nothing but Buddhi Yoga. And Buddhi Yoga is nothing but Bhakti Yoga. The reason why we're using these terminologies is because Krishna uses them in this order. And he's developing a theme that culminates in Bhakti Yoga. And Bhakti Yoga has other components of recognizing our relationship with Krishna, reviving our relationship with Krishna. So those things are not quite yet covered in this. This is just building up to that, you see. But when we get to that point, we realize that all the different yogas that are covered in Bhagavad-Gita, all yogas in existence of the universe of yogas, they are meant to take you to the point of Bhakti Yoga. They are meant to serve as support system for Bhakti Yoga. And ultimately, Bhakti Yoga is the highest form of yoga. There is nothing higher than Bhakti.
That's
And
a good.
at the end
So-
of at the end of chapter 6, Krishna will explain, you know, he says of all the yogis, one who is a Bhakti yogi, who is fully absorbed in me, is the highest. Yoginam api sarvesham bhakatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamamata. So he's shraddhavan, he's full of faith. Bhajate, he worships me. That is the highest form of yogi. Madgate antaratma, and his antaratma, he's always absorbed in me. So these are different components Krishna hasn't quite covered in this section yet. He's building up the infrastructure, philosophical framework for us to then now put in the remaining components of devotion to make the complete picture of Bhakti Yoga.
So he's building our buddhi right now.
He's building an understanding of what buddhi means.
Yeah.
He will build our buddhi when we actually do what required to get the Buddhi Yoga. And that comes in chapter 10.
I think Madan Gopal Prabhu, it is like a class. We are going from KG to college.
Exactly. And we are covering the same material over and over again.
Yeah.
So you learn in
different angles, from so many different angles, it's all the same.
But then when you reach the point of bhakti, then you'll appreciate all that went into building the understanding of it. And what bhakti includes and what it doesn't. And then you'll be able to distinguish, you know, the term dharma came up today, right? You'll be able to distinguish what is genuine dharma and what is cheating dharma. This cheating dharma is called kaitava dharma. Kaitava dharma is what Krishna described just very shortly on this idea of following the Vedas to develop material gain, to develop material sense gratification. That's called kaitava dharma. Why? Because you're following Vedas, so it is dharmic, but it is cheating because dharma is supposed to take you higher, not lower. It's not supposed to tie you down with more sense gratification.
That's karma kanda. If you're doing karma kanda, then it is not good.
Exactly. But it sounds dharmic, and it is dharmic because at least you recognize the higher goal, the higher God is there, is some higher power. But beyond that, it's not so much more. You see, so that is a form of cheating religion. Okay? And this concept of cheating religion is discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam, second verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we'll bring that up a little later as this comes up. It's a very interesting concept. And it's a real concept because it's found in the Vedas. So any other points?
Prabhu, I have one question. I'm actually listening. Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so what is the purpose in this actually second chapter of Gita to discuss all the yoga? I mean, the Krishna is going Krishna is trying to convince Arjuna to fight. So, and then he's trying to introduce different type of yoga, right?
Yes.
So, is this the fighting comes with the karma yoga, or what type of yoga is it if he fights?
Yes, so that's a good question. There's two questions you're asking here. Why, first of all, Krishna offers so many different kind of yoga. Just tells Arjuna, just fight, forget it, just fight, listen to what I'm saying, fight. Why do you need to talk about so much technical terminology of yoga and this jnana and karma and buddhi and all these things, right? What's the whole point of it? Actually, the point of this, and it's a greater point of the Gita, remember this chapter 2 is a summary of the entire Gita. So Krishna covers very quickly, he touches upon different yogas and what they're made of. And then he comes to the culmination that this Buddhi Yoga, which is actually Bhakti Yoga, is the one that will work for everybody and is the highest form. So the reason why Arjuna already knows all these things, but Krishna intentionally, artificially covers him so that he keeps asking the right questions for the benefit of those who are listening, the benefit of those who are following the story. And then for our benefit, Krishna describes all these various paths of yoga and the pros and cons of all of them. Why? Because in the whole world, all kinds of people are there. Some people are attracted to a particular kind of approach. Other people are attracted to the karma kanda approach. Some people are attracted to just sitting and meditating and just doing this jnana approach. So the reason why Krishna brings up all these categories is he wants to gain the attention of all these groups of people. Hey, he said Jnana Yoga, that's my area. Let me hear what he has to say. Oh, he talked about Karma Kanda. Oh, that's my favorite section. Let me hear what he has to say. You see, remember when this Mahabharata TV series was playing, the whole India shut down. You remember that? Why? Because it's so interesting, the story. Everybody wanted to hear this at the edge of the seat. And at what point were they the most at the edge of the seat? Just when the war is about to start. So basically, Krishna had captured everybody's eyes and ears, even in the modern world. You see, oh, now Arjuna is going to fight. Let's see. Come to the edge of the seat. What's going to happen? When your eyes are this wide open, your ears are this wide open, then Krishna describes these various philosophies, these various approaches, the pros and cons. Everybody will find some connectivity to their own situation, their own affection. And then Krishna put all of that in a proper context against each other. And therefore, it captures maximum number of people. That is why he covers all these various philosophies. Is that okay, Jagannath Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Any other discussion points?
So, Prabhuji, just one more thing I wanted to ask.
Yes.
So when you, like in this, Mataji said the recap slide. So, does it mean that all the Karma Yoga and the Jnana Yoga, actually to attain more clarity or to be more nearer to Krishna, you need to have all of them and not just one of them? Like all of them culminate towards Krishna, or by one path only someone can get?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Actually, that is one of the most asked questions on the Gita. Because what happens when you read the Gita, and even for me, I had that same question for a long time. Because 18 chapters, 18 different yogas are covered. Everything, this yoga, that yoga. So in the beginning, I thought, maybe this is like, you go to this Chand Palace restaurant in the evening, they have this buffet. Buffet is there.
Yoga
You choose
buffet.
what you want. The 18 items are there. You choose which one you like, you eat that one only. It doesn't matter. So initially I thought it's like that. If I'm attracted to Dhyana Yoga, sitting and doing meditation, I'll go to chapter 6. If I'm attracted to Karma Yoga, I'll go to chapter 3, whatever. Right? So initially I thought it's like that. When you have buffet and you have a lot of variety, then you get variety of people also, and business does very well. Krishna business does well. That's what I thought. Then later on, I realized, and the point you made is very valid, that yes, these different yogas, they are only meant to bring to the point of bhakti. They are not very useful on their own. They are not goals in and of themselves. Which is why we use the term yoga ladder.
Yes.
You see, yoga ladder means that when you're in the third step of a 10-step ladder, that is not the end of the ladder. Nobody sits only on the third step and then that's the end of it. No, you have to keep going. You go on staircase. Nobody just lives on the second step or the seventh step. The staircase is to take you to the floor you want to be. And there's only one floor, that is Krishna. So to go there, you can take the staircase where you try out, where you take part in all of these different yogas and gradually move toward bhakti, or you can take the elevator that takes you straight to bhakti. So that is the point. So Krishna's point in demonstrating all these yogas is to show the supremacy of bhakti and the independence of bhakti. The bhakti is independent of all of them. Bhakti does not need all these others to work.
But you can't do without bhakti then. But others need bhakti.
Yeah, in fact, the whole goal of all the others is to take you to bhakti. If they don't take you to bhakti, that whole process has failed.
Yeah.
You see, that is the whole point of Gita.
So it's like any process you have in place or you choose, it all leads to bhakti, and that bhakti marg
Is the
ultimate.
Nothing higher than bhakti. Bhakti platform is the platform of the soul. Everything else is an intermediate step.
I guess any yoga you follow, it has to have a Krishna conscious. Then only I think it will lead to bhakti eventually.
Yeah.
That is what these 18 yogas is basically.
Yes, and then exactly that's the point, Srinivas Prabhu. And you'll find that at the end of most of these chapters, when Krishna covers a particular kind of yoga, at the end he says, for example, chapter 6, right? Chapter 6, Krishna describes Dhyana yoga, where you sit up straight and you focus your breath, in-going, outgoing breath, and he describes that in detail. At the end of that chapter, Krishna says that of all these Dhyana yogis, that Dhyana yogi who has focused completely on me, to serve me and to please me, that is the best. So basically, even within these yogas, unless they come to the point of doing their yoga in a bhakti angle, their yoga is not the best. Offering it fully to Krishna.
If the concentration is not, your conscious is not on Krishna, then it just become karma. That's it.
Yeah, it's karma or it's a wasted effort.
Exactly.
It is just a useless labor.
Absolutely.
There is a verse in Bhagavatam. He says, "Na utpadayet yadi ratim, shrama eva hi kevalam." That if it does not produce rati for Krishna, the affection, love for Krishna, then it is shrama eva hi kevalam. It is only shrama. It is only effort that is wasted.
Correct.
So that is the point that you are making, Prabhu. Very good point. So yoga means connect to Krishna. If it doesn't connect to Krishna, it is shrama. It is useless labor. Any kind of yoga has its culmination in bhakti process and bhakti platform. And how to reach bhakti it will be described, and how to attain bhakti, Krishna will describe as we go along. And towards this chapter, as we progress, Arjuna will ask, what are the symptoms of a person who is in proper yoga? Who is a sthita pragya? Pragya means very knowledgeable and situated. Who is the sthita pragya? He will ask those kind of questions, because he's going to ask now, okay, you're saying I should be a buddhi yogi. I don't understand what that means. What does that look like? What does that see? How does that work in practice? So Krishna says, okay, I'll answer all your questions. So he moves along like that. All right. Oh, we've gone quite a bit over time. Any other discussion?
What did you say, Sthita Pragya?
Sthita Pragya, will come to that, but Sthita Pragya is one who is a practitioner, a successful practitioner who's walking on the path of Buddhi Yoga. Sthita means situated, and Pragya, Gya means knowledge, like knowledgeable. Pragya means very knowledgeable and situated steadily. So a stage of steady mind, a stage of steady intelligence is called Sthita Pragya.
Yeah, the one who reacts to anything the same way.
Yeah.
Equipoise.
Yeah.
Exactly, equipoise in way. So Arjuna will ask, how does he sit? How does he stand? How does he walk? How does he work? Sita pragyasya ka bhasha. How does he speak? What is his language? Samadhistasya keshava. Sitadhi kim prabhaseta. Kim asita vrajeta kim. How does he walk? How does he sit? How does he, this is a question that Arjuna asks. It's right here in the second chapter. We're almost there. So we'll get into it. And I have some nice slides with graphics and pictures to show how Sthita Pragya behaves. And this clarifies to Arjuna, okay, now I'm gradually understanding what Buddhi Yoga means.
Those 4 questions and its answers are very important. If we can remember that these are the pillars and the cornerstones of understanding. So, do we have a minute or two to ask a question which is like
Vijay Mother is
run
smiling.
affair. I mean, the
Priya is
reactive
everyone is
hormone.
smiling. Sure.
Mataji is the boss and still she's asking you.
I know.
Yes.
I know. This is why I do this, you know. She said you have to respect the speaker. So at least half an hour in the day I get respect. Yeah, that's why I do the class.
Don't get greedy.
No.
When it comes
This
to
respect is very addictive. Don't get too used to this respect. Okay?
So, you know, if anybody has questions, they can write to us, write to him. You know, we can respond and reply to you on WhatsApp in favor of time. You know, don't want to consume.
I think that's not a bad idea. Maybe we should hold on to the questions and after the session.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can write later, but even inside the session also you can ask. It's fine.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's
Maybe
makes
we
sense.
can put down
Yes.
our questions through the session and then have a blast.
So, but it'll be nice to write them down. Yeah.
So there's a
Yeah.
question that you asked that being, you know, a devotee or, you know, practitioner of Krishna consciousness, one feels sorry for today's situation, especially for the healthcare providers, the workers, the doctors, and everybody. And especially with the scenario where they have to leave their body in a very impersonal way where nobody's there to care for them. In this situation, what a devotee feels very sad, but what can be done and how to understand this situation in light of Krishna consciousness?
This is a question by Yogini Aunty. She'd asked earlier. She written to us. So this is basically about, you know, all the struggles that everybody's going through these days, especially those who actually got infected and they've lost some family members and so on.
Yeah, sad. So thank you for the question.
So thank you, Auntie, for the question. And these kind of situations, we are all going through this right now. They make us think deeply. One, why the Lord does certain things. And why they're happening to us, why me, what did I do, and so on and so forth. So according to Shastra, there are several angles to look at this. One is that we can see this lockdown as an opportunity to take some time away from what is our crazy routines, that, you know, sometimes we just get locked down in these routines where we have no breathing space to sit down and think and ponder at all.
No way. So this question is a different question.
Okay.
From the angle where the person who is alone in the hospital, dying a lonely death.
Yes, and that actually we saw. We saw that yesterday. Because
yeah,
so anyway, the point is that suppose I find myself in the hospital alone, and the person is certain to die the next day or two. So what should one do at that point? Now, even this, there are two ways where people can die. So one is that a person dies alone, and the other is that it dies surrounded by family members and loved ones and all that. Now, depending on that person's consciousness, being surrounded by other people may not necessarily be the best way to pass away, because it depends, one, on the consciousness the person is dying, and two, it depends on the consciousness of the people who are surrounding him. You know, if I am just struggling to be more spiritual, to focus on God, and all my family members, they just want to talk about, okay, what's in the will, how much money will I get, or how is he feeling, just some other superficial things that are not spiritual, then all those things at the time of death become distraction. It's better that person who is inclined to think about God to die alone, because then he'll just be him and God in his consciousness, isn't it? In one sense, that's better. Another angle is that if his relatives or friends and family are very Krishna conscious, and they would prefer to chant and all that with him and encourage him to move forward to Krishna. And the person himself is also very advanced in Krishna consciousness, and he's already very absorbed in Krishna. Or even if it's medium advanced, he loves Krishna a lot and he thinks about Krishna very often. Even in that scenario, it may be better that the person passes away alone. Because even in that scenario, who knows what they're thinking about, okay, his relationship, the friendliness with that person, and what they're talking about me behind my back and this and that, or how superficial are they? And maybe it's better, let me just be alone and think deeply about Krishna and my relation with Krishna. So there are definite advantages to being alone. There are also advantages to being surrounded by progressive Krishna conscious devotees who are very pure in heart and who do want to make the atmosphere very pure. Ultimately, what matters is the consciousness at the time of your death is driven by what you have done throughout your life. That is the bottom line. We cannot, suppose I want to get a degree in Spanish language. I cannot study for the exam, 10 hours before the Spanish exam. I cannot study Spanish 10 hours. It's not possible. It is not a kind of thing where you can cram for it. You have to practice the whole semester. Every day, half an hour practice you must do. Otherwise, you will not be able to do it. Even if, say, total number of hours, I do 24 hours of Spanish study. But if I spread out that 24 hours of Spanish study over, several weeks, instead of doing it all in one day before, it'll make a big difference in your performance. Because at that last moment of the exam, you'll know where you just cram it. Similarly, if we practice Krishna consciousness every single day, chant Hare Krishna a little bit every morning, chant in the evening, and you read a little bit, discuss a little bit, you do some kirtan, you attend some programs every week or whatever it may be. If you do it regularly, week after week, month after month, year after year, and you attend the festivals and celebrations, and you've done some seva, then this will culminate very nicely at the time of death. But if you leave it to the end, what happens towards the end of life, whatever you've been thinking mostly about in the whole life, that's what's going to show up in your mind. You can't suddenly try to shove something in your mind at the time of death. So, yeah.
So from this topic that we're discussing, the worker healthcare provider, let's say doctor, he catches the virus and he dies. What wrong did he do to get this kind of reaction? That puzzles a lot of, in general, people. They ask this question: why? What wrong did he do to get this kind of death kind of punishment?
Yes.
So he was just trying to help the humanity.
Yeah. It's a good question. One is that karma is very complicated, right? We cannot judge the karmic reaction of a person by just seeing what he's done recently or what he's done even in this whole life. Sometimes the karma of 50 lifetimes ago is meant to hit you in this lifetime, only now. So karma is very complicated. So it's impossible for us to trace out what did he do wrong. He's an innocent person. I mean, we see little children also dying very innocently. Second, if you look at it from the point of view, say like Arjuna in the battlefield, or those who are on the side of Arjuna, pretty much every soldier died, even on the side of Arjuna. What wrong do they do? They are fighting for Krishna and Arjuna and Yudhishthira. Still they died. What wrong did they do? Why did they have to die? They should have all stayed alive. But this is a war. Most people are going to die. However, their death was very glorious. And it is described in the Mahabharata that because they were doing selfless activities, even those on the side of Duryodhana gained heaven. They didn't go to hell. Why? Because Krishna was personally present. And Krishna was so expert in driving chariot that people were dying left and right, here, there. Anytime somebody is about to leave, Krishna made sure he was in that vicinity. And they saw his darshan. So he gave his personal darshan to every single person who died in their war. So this is his special mercy. Because these are the people, even though whatever their motivations may be, they are fighting selflessly. It doesn't matter whose side they're fighting. That's not even relevant. And even back then in Kshatriya court, people used to change sides. important thing was fighting. Whose side was not that crucial, you know. So Kshatriyas, they know if I die in the battlefield, I will go to heaven. So one at that point can't ask, what did he do wrong? No. He did right only. So similarly, these fighters, the doctors and the nurses, and who are doing selfless work, they know very well that they have a 90% or some very high percent chance of catching this virus. Very well, they know. Still, they go with it. They know very well the government is not fully equipped to deal with my issues. They're not giving proper masks. They're not taking care of the situation. We have limited resources, but still, I'm going to do my best to save as many people as possible in this hospital. That's my seva. So if that doctor dies in the field like that, certainly he will get a very, very high reward for that selflessness. You see? So that is the different ways to look at it. There's only positivity that comes out of it. Of course, they should use full intelligence in how they work and full precautions and all that. It's not that you throw all precautions to the wind and you try to die, you know. You know, some people, they're not, we don't use maximum intelligence also. It's buddhi yoga, right? It's not lack of buddhi. So those are a couple of angles you can look at this.
Thank you so much.
All right. Okay. So any other points to discuss? It doesn't have to be a question. It can be a comment or anything that you want to say.
Prabhuji, please share last week's slides.
Yes.
Not last week, last classes.
Last Tuesday's classes. Yes, I will share the slides. Definitely share the slides, and you can All right. The homework for next Tuesday. Let's give some homework. Where's the Gita? I want to see what I want to assign a verse that we should memorize. And those who didn't memorize number 13, see if you can memorize. You can recite next time also. I want to 241 is a good one to remember. 241. Okay. Verse number 41. Vyavasayatmika buddhi rekeha kurunandana. This is one of the key verses in the second chapter. I would like to request all the devotees to learn this verse. And we can, if time permits, we can also discuss the purport, because this purport in this verse encapsulates the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Right? Yeah. Shraddha, what is Shraddha? What is faith? What is intelligence? What is mercy? It's all captured very nicely. So and Krishna used the term buddhi. Vyavasayatmika buddhi, one-pointed intelligence. So if you can make a note of that, in chapter 2, text number 41. Memorize that one. Memorize the Sanskrit of it. If you can recite it, that'll be very nice. So we'll start with that one next time. Okay? And I will share the slides as well. Haribo.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to do Kirtan 1 minute?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
We'll do Kirtan for 1 minute, okay?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. If I go on the
Very well.
so thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
Homework.
Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
241, okay? Memorize it, everybody.
Krishna.
Yeah. Be safe, everyone.
Be safe. Don't go to shoplight.
Thank you, Madan Gopal Prabhu.
Next Tuesday.
Thank you all for joining. Appreciate it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Now, chant Hare Krishna and learn the verse.
Bye.